Hello guys, you are welcome back to Business Statistics MCQs. In this video, we are going to look at how to solve KSB, that's Kenya's School of Business Level 100 second semester. Some of the past questions that have been trending all these out years. So that we're going to solve some of them in this video. So if you are new on this channel, please consider to give this video a like and share and comment in this video, and most importantly, subscribe to this channel so that anytime we release any video on this channel, you'll be the first person to get it right away on your device. So without wasting my time, let's go real quick to this video and then know what it entails under Business Statistics MCQ. So let's go through real quick. So this happens to be our first question. The average age of 36 members of one fraternity is what? 19.5 years, whereas that of 39 members of the second fraternity is what? 20.1 years. Then that of 25 members is what? 19.8 years. Find the overall mean age of the three fraternity groups. So that's what we are asked to find. We know the first group has 36 members, and then the average age of what? One fraternity member within 36 is what? 19.5. That of 39 is 20.1, and that of 25 members is what? 19.8 years. So we are asked to find the overall mean age of the three fraternities. So this is what you're going to do. You must first of all find the total age of all these various groups. Okay, find the total age of all these various groups. Then after that, you add their total ages and divide by the total number of what? All the groups in this case. So you're going to, after finding the total ages of the 36 members and that of 39 and that of 25, you add all of them together and you divide by the total number in each what? Fraternity group that have indicated as what they say. You add all of them and you divide. So let's see how that's what that is. So as in our first, A is 19.9 years, B 19.4, C 19.7, and D is what? 19.7 years. So let's see which of them will be the answer in that case. So as I was saying, you just represent them and then find the summation of what? The total ages from each individual what? Groups. So we have 36, we have 39, and we have 25. So this is how they find the mean. Mean is always equal to the summation of the total number divided by what? Or summation of what? The total number divided by the number itself. So here we're having 36. The first pattern we're having what? 36 members. Yeah. Alright, then the mean age was what? 19.5. Okay. 19.5 in that case. So 19.5. So all that you need to do here is to multiply what the average year per member to that of the total what member within that what group. So that's what I did for the first one. All that I do is to represent what the total age of the first fraternity group as well summation what summation x subscript 1, and then I multiplied. I do a cross multiplication by saying that to find the mean is summation x over what n. Then I make that summation x subscript 1 as a subject, and I solve for the total age, and I had what? 702 for that, right? And the same thing I did for the other groups. Then when I come to the final part, I added all the total summation from the respective groups, and I divided by their total what? Number. I add all their total number, I divide in that case. So that's how I come to result at 19.809. And then at the end of the day, you should be able to convert it to one decimal place. You should be able to get 19.8 years. So that is the whole deal. But then here I've just solved it for you. Okay, that was the first example. So the next example they're going to, or the next question you're going to take on, I'll urge you to pause the video and then solve it. Once you solve it, then you resume the video. You see whether you had it right or you had it wrong. Okay. So at the end of the day, after you have gone through this video, I would like you to comment below the marks that you obtain from these questions or these MCQ to know whether you're able to perform at standard or you couldn't, and so that next time you know how to strategize and then work out things so that you can improve on better. So that's what I want you to do. Then also like this video so that you can get more engagement on this video, so that I can help this video to move far and help people to also to take advantage of this channel, also learn as well in that case. So that's what you're going to look at for in this video. So let's take note of that. So the next question, you pause the video, you solve it, and after solving it, then you resume it to see whether you had it right or wrong. So that is the goal of this video. So let's take note of that. Okay, so enjoy. Question 2. Given that f of x squared is equal to 455,803, summation f of x is equal to 6,745, and n is equal to what? 100. We are asked to find what? This summation f into bracket x minus s bar all squared divided by n. And remember, this is also equal to summation f of x all squared divided by n minus summation f of x divided by n all squared. This formula here in blue is the same thing as the one I've indicated red, I've underlined. So anytime I solve for the one I've underlined as red, this one, then I'm going to get what? The blue. Whatever I get for the red, I'll get for the blue circle I've indicated. The formula. That's what we need to know. So you are saying first A, it is 8.552, then B 8.5281, C 8.5275, then D 8.5280. So let's see which of them will be the best option for this question, right? And remember, we are using this question to solve up to question 5. So we are using the information in here to solve up to question 5. So as we move along, you appreciate what I'm saying better. Alright, so let's see how they did it. So as I was telling you, this formula is the same thing as this. Okay, so all I will do is just to substitute the values for summation f of x squared, then summation f of x, and then the n into the formula, and then the result will be that I'm going to get what? 8.5275. So just do the substitution, then use your calculator to punch, then you're going to get the value for that. So that is the whole deal about this. So let's move on. So question 3, they're asking us to find what? The mean. To find the mean is equal to summation in the question, in this case, summation f of x over what? N. Alright, so that is the formula. And then you substitute that in that case. But remember, our summation f of x in the question was given us what? 6,000, this one, 6,700 and what? 45,000, and n was what? 100. So all I will do is just do the substitution here. Here is 6, 7, 6, 7, 6, 7, 4, 5 divided by what? 100. My result then will be the answer to that. So here you can see that it is what? 67.45, and that will be what? Option what? B. So let's see the final presentation. So as I was talking about a summary form, that's the mean formula I've indicated, which is what? 6,745 divided by what? 100, and then you get your answer to be what? 67.45 as option B. So let's take note of that. Then we are asked to find what? The standard deviation from the same information. To find the standard deviation, we said to find the standard deviation is equal to what? The summation of what? F into bracket x minus x bar all squared divided by what? N. So once you get this formula right, then remember, in our first question of this information, we were asked to solve for summation f into bracket x minus x bar all squared all over n without the square root. So the answer that we had 8.5275. That was what we had. So we just take the square root of that, then that will be for the standard deviation. So 8.5275. Whatever you're going to get for this will be the standard deviation in this case. So let's take note of that. So let's see the summary to see whether it falls within the options that we have here. So as I was saying, the standard deviation is equal to the square root of summation f into bracket s bar all squared all over what n, and then when you take the square root of what the 8.5275, you're going to get what 2.92. That was option what B. So B in that case. So let's take note of that. I hope you are enjoying and you are understanding certain things. Okay, so if you understand it right, comment below. Below in the comment section and tell me whether you have gotten it right, or what should I do so that next time you get it right more better or in a more clarified way. So thank you for still watching this video. Then question 5, we are asked to calculate what the coefficient of variation using the same information. The coefficient of variation here, CV, will be equal to the standard deviation divided by what the arithmetic mean, which is the x bar. So once you do that, you should be able to get your and then multiply by 100. So once you do that, you should be able to get your coefficient of what variation, right? So let's see, coefficient of variation here is your standard deviation divided by the arithmetic what mean. Standard deviation divided by your arithmetic what mean, and then multiply by what 100, and that's why we. So remember, in the standard we had what 2.92, and we have the arithmetic mean or the mean as what 67.45, and then we multiply by what 100, then we're going to get what 4.329%, and that was what option what B here. So you just convert to one decimal place and get what 4.3%. So let's take note of that. Then question 6, there are dash levels of measurement. Remember, in statistics we have various levels of measuring what data. First, we have what we call the nominal, and we have what we call the ordinary, and we have what we call the interval, and we have the ratio form. So how many do we have here in this case? 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we have 4 levels of measurement. So option D will hold true in this case. So let's take note. We have what 4 levels of what measurement, and as we move along, you get to understand. Nominal, you are talking about what members within the nominal group. You are talking about those that can be measured or counted. You are talking about membership. When you are talking about nominal measurement of data, you are talking about membership. When we are talking about the ordinary, we are talking about ranking, talking about whether this is good, whether this is bad, whether this have high ranking, whether this have low or average. That's the ordinary. When it comes to the interval, we are talking about the distance between two sets of what variables. Then the ratio, we try to compare two values at the same time. So these are just the summary form. As we move along, you understand it better. So that was question 6, and we have 4 levels of measurement. So let's take note of that. Then question 7, the largest collection of observation for which one has an interest in a given situation is called A, parameter, B, sample, C, a population, then D, frequency distribution. So what do you think is going to be the answer for this? The largest collection of observation for which one has an interest in a given situation is called the. So the answer is what? Population. Population is the answer. Population, you are talking about a group, or you are talking about the collection of what? A group upon which what? An event is certain to what? Studied on. Alright? That's what we call it, a population. So let's say take a population of, let's say, US. Then we'll look into account which categories of US people prefer the use of, let's say, iPhones. Though you may have majority of them preferring the use of, but we have a particular sector, whether the old, whether the young, whether the total, for purpose of explanation, who uses iPhone more, and that would have been what called a sample. So basically, a population would help us to know a portion upon which we are interested in studying. Alright, so that is a population, the largest collection of observation. So that is population. Let's take note of that. Question 8. The graph of cumulative distribution is called what? A line of graph, B, a histogram, C, an ogive, and D, a bar chart. So what do you think will be the answer? So the answer is what? An ogive in that case. So let's take note of that. Ogive, that's what we call a frequency polygon. Here you can construct a cumulative distribution based on what the frequency polygon. You match up the midpoints and then the frequencies, and you're going to get an ogive in that case. So it's also called an ogive. So let's take note of that. Question 9. We have to use the following frequency distribution table to solve for question 9 up to 12. So time to complete the task and their frequency. So question 9, we are asked to calculate the width of the last class. The width of the last class, I've indicated with the red pen here. The width of the last class. So to find the width of the last class, you must first of all calculate what? Your class boundary. Your class boundary. How do you calculate class boundary? Let's see how you calculate class boundary in this case. So to find the width of the class, first you must calculate the class boundary I've indicated here. So class boundary is equal to the upper limit of any class compared with the lower limit in succeeding what class, and then divide by what? 2. I've indicated with the red. Alright, so here if I take, let's say, the first class interval, which is of 7.1 and then 8.4. If I take the upper class limit with what? 8.4, okay, 8.4 in that case. So that will be the upper class limit, okay, and then I then compare with what is succeeding what class. So what will be the succeeding class after 8.4? Is going to be what? 8.5 and then 9.8. That will be the succeeding class. So we look out for the lower limit of the succeeding class, which is what? The 8.5, and I do that. When I take for example, I take the third class interval, which is the 9.1 and then 11.2. The upper class of the third class will be what? 11.2, and what will be the succeeding class? That's the one that comes after the class I'm talking about, which is what? 11.3 and then 12.6. So the lower class of the succeeding class is going to be what? 11.2. So I just compared 11.2 to match up with 11.3. Okay, 11.2 here. Let me indicate it to match up with the next succeeding class of 11.3, and then when I take the difference, I divide by what? So I just use, for example, the first class. So I compare the first upper class limit of the first class interval, which is 8.4, and then compare it to the lower limit of the succeeding was what? 8.5, and I had 0.1, and I divide by 2 and I had what? 0.05. So after that, you subtract the result of 0.05 from the lower class of any class, and then you add the same value to the upper class limit of the class we are talking about. So here in this case, we are talking about the last class, which was what? The 14.1 then 16.8. So I subtract from 14.1 and add to what? 16.8. That's what I did here. Okay, the underlined one. And I had the class boundary to be 14.05 and 16.85. So you see, the 14.05 will be the lowest or the lower class boundary, and then 16.85 will be the upper class what? Boundary, or the limit, upper class limit, the upper class limit, and then the 14.05 will be the lower class limit of the boundary. So let's take note of that. So to find the width, you just compare the lower class limit in terms of the boundary here is 14.05, subtract from the 16.85. The difference should give you what? The class width for that class. Okay, so then we had what, 2.8 in that case, and that was option what, B. Option B. So let's take note of that. So let's move on. Then we are asked to calculate, use the same information to calculate question, I think question 12. So this was question 10. The relative frequency of the second class. The relative frequency of the second class. So what was the second class in the question? The second class was what? 8.5 and then 9.8. So and then the frequency was 9. Okay, so to find relative frequency, I always denote it as this is equal to the frequency of that particular class divided by the total what frequency. Alright. Then we want to know the number of times that class frequency is occurring. That's what we always use to find a relative what frequency in that case. So let's see the summary result. So as you can see here, we had relative frequency to be the number of frequencies of a particular class divided by the total number. And for the second class, the frequency was 9, and then the total frequency was what, 40 in the question. Let's see. This was the total frequency, 40. I hope you have seen it. Yeah, this one. So that's how can we arrive at the 40. Then we had, with the help of a calculator, we had was 0.225, and that was an option what, A. So option A was the right answer. I hope you are following through and you are getting things right. Okay, so that's how can we arrive in that case. So let's continue. I hope you are continuing the same way. You pause the video, then you solve it before you look at how it was solved in this video. So let's do that. Okay, it's going to be helping us. So keep enjoying, right? If you haven't like this video, and if you are new, you also subscribe, and let's move together and let's excel together on this channel. Okay, so all the best, enjoy. Then we are also asked to find what the percentage frequency of the third class. Let's go back and look out for the third class in the question. What was the third class in the question? So the third class was what, the 9.9 and then 11.2. All right, so that was the third class, and the frequency was what, 13. So let's go and look out for the question that is requiring us to find the percentage frequency. So the percentage frequency here, it is equal to percentage frequency is equal to the relative frequency multiplied by what, 100. All right. So when you take the relative frequency, was what, 13 out of 40 for the third class, and then multiply by what, 100, your result will be true for the percentage of what, that class in that case. So let's take note of that. So let's see the summary solution to this approach. So the percentage frequency equals the relative frequency multiplied by what, 100. This I'm saying, as I was saying. So here the frequency for that third class was what, 13, and the total frequency was what, 40. And I then multiply by 100, and at the end of the day I will arrive at what, 32.5, and that would be an option what, C. So that was our answer for percentage frequency of the third class. So let's take note of that. Then question 12. We are asked to find the upper class boundary of the last class. Remember, when we find in the question 9, reference question 9, we said the class boundary for the last class was what, 14.05 to 16.85. So for me to know the upper class boundary of this class, it is what, certainly going to be 16.85. So that will be my upper class boundary, and it's going to be my lower what, class boundary. My lower class boundary. Okay, so let's take note of that. So the option is going to be what, A. So you see here we have 14.05 here, 16.85. Then we arrive at what, option D as our preferred answer. This option is, sorry, here I choose, it shouldn't be so easy. 85, you see, even that I'm solving, I'm even making a mistake. So if you don't check the value, so you might make a mistake. It is actually D and not what A. So let's take note of that. So next question. Question 13. Use the information to answer the question 13 and 14. Sorry. Okay. So what is the level of measurement for student grade point average? Remember, in a previous question that we have solved, there was a question about levels of measurement, and I explained them briefly. With the nominal, you are talking about what? The group membership or data which can be counted or classified. With the ordinal, we are talking about what? Ranking. So ranking can take the form of what? Grade of a student, right? Intelligence quotient, you can also run them. And ratio, we are comparing two things. For example, comparing 0 Ghana cedis to that of, let's say, 100 cedis. That would be a ratio. So you can see that the one having 0 have nothing, then the one having 100 cedis have some money on his pocket. All right, so that would be a ratio. In the interval, we're talking about a distance. So in this case, student grade going to be what? An ordinary what? Level of what measurement? We're talking about their grade points. Ranking, when you have high grade points, you are ranked first. When you have the average, second in that systematic order. So the ordinary here going to be the student grade points are going to be what? An ordinary what? Level of measurement. So let's take note of that. So the option is what? Option what? P in that case. Option B in that case. Then distance student travel to lecture. So distance travel to lectures will be what? An interval, which is what? D in this case. Alright, let's take note of that. Question 15. Which of the following variables are discrete? You said a discrete data is a data in which the variables within that data can be counted, or there is a number attached to that what? Data. For example, taking the number of, let's say, children in a particular family, taking the number of, let's say, old persons or old individuals within a particular family, or let's say taking the number of, let's say, pens we have in, let's say, red box. That's why we call it discrete data. And its opposite is a continuous data which assumes what, or a particular data which assumes what is variables within a particular what range. It will give us a continuous what variable. By discrete, we have what? A number being attached to that particular what data. So here, what will be? We have A, length of the road, B, time of journey, C, number of oranges in the basket, and D, masses of women. So here you can clearly see that the number of oranges is going to be the discrete data as what? Option what? C. So let's take note. So that's a discrete what data. We are talking about a number of what? Particular data, right? And continuous assumes what? The variables within a particular what? Range. Question 16. A distribution has a standard deviation of what? 0.6. What is the variance? We are saying that standard deviation is always a square root of what? A variance. And to find a variance, just make what? The variance a subject. So here I'll just square both sides. So I can say that the standard deviation in this case is going to be what? V. So I'll just square the standard deviation, I'll get my variance. So 0.6 all squared should give me what? The variance. So your answer should be in that. So when I take the square of 0.6, I'll get in what? B, which is what? 0.36 in that case. 0.36 as my final answer in that case. So that is how we calculate what? Variance. So always to find the standard deviation, just take the square root of variance, and to find the variance, just take the square of what? Standard deviation or standard deviation value, and you get that in that case. Question 17. Which of the following statements about a mode is true? We said a mode is an element of what? A central tendency, in that a central tendency of particular data help us to determine clearly where the data lies centrally within where the value of that data lies centrally within that data. And mode is one of what? The elements of what? A central what? Tendency. In a central tendency, we have mode, we have the median, we have the mean, we have the arithmetic mean, we have what? The weighted what? Mean. So it's five what? Elements of a central tendency. And mode, we are talking about the number of what? Occurrence of that particular what? Variable in that data. So how they are occurring, the number of times they are occurring will determine the mode. And once they are occurring, then it is certainly that it's going to be common throughout all the data. So let's see which of the following statement is true about what? Mode. A, it is the most widely used average. B, it is a measure of dispersion. C, it gives the most common value. Then D, its computation involves every item in the distribution. So which of them are going to be? It's certainly that going to be C. It gives the most common value. Gives the most common what? Value. So going to put C in that case. Right, so let's take note of that. Dash and dash are the measure of dispersion and measure of central tendency respectively. We said a measure of dispersion, we are trying to talk about how the data is being spread. We are talking about the variability of what the data in terms of how they are measured using various approaches to measure of what that particular data. We are talking about the spread and we are talking about the variability. So here, when it comes to measures of dispersion, we have what we call range, we have what we call the standard deviation, we have what we call the mean deviation, and we have variance as part of what? The measures of what? Dispersion, right? So here, which of them is going to be a measure of dispersion? A, mean and median, they are central tendency, so it's not part. Range is one measure of dispersion, okay? And median is also a measure of what? Central tendency. Mode is not a measure of dispersion. And the mean here for the D is also not what? A measure of dispersion. So all things being equal is going to be what? Range, and then the median in that case for the respective measure of dispersion, and then the central tendency. So let's take note of that. Measure of dispersion, we are talking about what? The variability or how the data is being spread out. That's what we call a measure of dispersion. So let's take note of that. Question 19. The median of a group data is, to find the median of a group data, all things we said median, we are talking about what? A value that's actually cause a center that divides the data into two equal parts. That's what we call what? A median, the middle what? Value that divides the data into two equal parts. So if I have a set of data consists of, let's say 1 to, let's say 10, and I want to find the middle value of that data, then it's certainly that going to be what? 5. Half of that data is going to my median. So half of it, if half of it going to my median, then if I want to find the percentage, it's going to be 1/2 multiplied by what? 100. And what will be 1/2 multiplied by 100? Going to be what? 50% in that case. So always median is 50 percentile of that particular data, and the option D satisfies that. So let's take note of that. Then lastly, which of the following is a measure of dispersion? Measure of dispersion, we are talking about the spread or the variability of what data. You have a range. Which of the following is not a measure of dispersion? Sorry, it's not a measure of what? It's not a measure of dispersion. A, range. B, standard deviation. C, mean. Then D, mean deviation. So what do you think is going to be the answer? It's certainly that mean is not part of measure of dispersion, because mean is what? An element of a central tendency. So mean going to be their answer in this case. So that is a measure of what? Dispersion. So finally, thank you for watching this video. It's been of great help coming your way to assist you and to help you. So if this video was helpful to you, please consider to give this video a like, subscribe, and comment your marks in the comment section. So I'll see you next time. Thank you and bye bye.